everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel. For those of you who are just joining us, my name is Caroline Vizana and I'm a fashion editor, stylist, and the author and founder of Making It in Manhattan, based in New York City. For today's video, I wanted to do something a little bit different. I receive a ton of questions on Instagram and TikTok from you guys asking how I got my start in this industry, how I wrote my book, how I landed jobs at Teen Vogue and InStyle, and for career advice for how you guys can break into. So I wanted to sit down and film an all-encompassing video from start to finish talking all about my career, how I broke into the industry, how I got my start, and how you guys can too. So let's get started. So I think it's best to start from the beginning. I grew up in New York, right outside of Manhattan, and I always loved fashion. I was one of those girls who loved reading fashion books, watched Project Runway religiously, and just knew that one day I wanted to work in the fashion industry. So eventually when it came time to go to college and apply to college, I knew I wanted to study fashion. Like most people, I really didn't know about all the different career paths in the industry. I only really knew about being a designer or being a buyer. So when I went into college, I went in as a fashion design major. If you've read my book, you probably know some of this already. My book is called Making It in Manhattan, so some of you guys might know a little bit of this already, but I figured I'll just start from the beginning and tell you guys it all. So when it came time to go to college, I went in as a fashion design major, which is surprising now because I don't really enjoy sewing that much, but at the time it was all that I really knew. As you know, I knew I didn't want to be a buyer. I knew I wanted to be on the more creative side of things, so I went in as a fashion design major. And I went to a small liberal arts college in Pennsylvania called Albright College. A lot of questions I receive from you guys are what college I went to and what did I study. So I went to Albright College, which is a small liberal arts school in Reading, Pennsylvania. And after figuring out I did not want to be a designer, the major I went to was a double major of fashion design and merchandising. So it was really nice being at a liberal arts school because I had kind of the freedom to explore different avenues of the industry, try out different things. Having a major of design and merchandising was nice because I got to try out a lot of different things. Another question I get asked often is why didn't I go to a major fashion school in New York, especially since I'm from New York? The answer to that is I just really wanted to get out of my hometown and explore something new. Being from New York, I have a big family and I wanted to just be my own person and explore and grow as a person, and I felt like if I stayed within New York that I wouldn't get to grow as much as I did once I went to college. I feel like college and going away for college is a great experience. I learned so much about myself and so much about, what I really wanted to do in my life and in my career. And if I didn't go away to college, I feel like I never would have discovered all of that. So now, while I was in college, I was involved in a lot of different clubs and things like that. I was the president of the fashion club and the editor-in-chief of the fashion magazine, so it's great to get involved within your surroundings. But my first real fashion experience came after my sophomore year of college. I landed my very first fashion internship with fashion designer Anna Sui, and that was in the Garment Center in Manhattan, and it was so incredible. So how did I land this internship? Because I talk about interning a lot and how important interning is. So how did I land this internship? I honestly just went online, Googled tons of different designer names, and eventually when I Googled Anna Sui, I got to her website, and on her website she had a direct contact for internships. So that was great because a lot of the email addresses I was emailing at companies were like info@dvf.com. Black hole emails that nobody ever answered, but I was so young, I knew absolutely nothing about this industry. I just was so hungry and wanted to get an internship, so I just emailed everyone and applied everywhere, and eventually I emailed directly into the Anna Sui internship email, heard back a few days later, and landed a production internship. Fast forward now to my second internship. My second internship was at Marie Claire magazine, and that was the next summer after my junior year of college. So how did I land that internship? A upperclassman at my college had interned for Marie Claire the summer before I did, so she did an internship presentation about her experience. I went to it. Honestly, her experience was not good. She said that she really didn't enjoy interning there and that it just is definitely not something for her and that she definitely didn't want to work in magazines after that. But one of my biggest tips in life is experience things for yourself. Don't always just take someone's word for it. So for me, I really had my heart set on trying out fashion magazines, and though she seemed like she didn't really like it, I still approached her and said, hey, I know you said you didn't really love the experience, but would you be willing to, pass along the internship email contact? I would just really love to try it out for myself and try out magazines. I was super respectful and nice about it and everything, and she was super cool and was like, sure, just a heads up, I hated it, but here you go. So took the email address, emailed, applied for the internship, ended up getting an interview, and ended up landing the internship. I was hired as a general closet intern, and then during the summer was promoted to be an intern to an editor, a personal intern to an editor. So then I was working one-on-one with an editor, and it was incredible and such a great experience, and I learned so much. So after that internship ended, which was in the summer, I was, going back to my senior year of college, I landed my first styling job. So this was baby Caroline back in the day, knew nothing about styling really, but a friend of mine who I knew from high school is now a comedian, and he had contacts and had made friends with different comedians in New York City, and some of the comedians he was friends with were on this show on MTV called Girl Code. So the MTV Video Music Awards were coming up in like a month or so, and it was their first MTV Video Music Awards. They needed a stylist, and he had seen all of the amazing things I was doing at my internship because I was sharing everything from my internship on Instagram. I had no following back then, just was doing it for fun. I really knew nothing about social media marketing or building a brand on social media, but I was sharing my day-to-day experiences and things I was doing at Marie Claire on social media, and so he saw it, reached out to me, asked me if I would want to style them for the MTV Video Music Awards as a 20-year-old girl going into her senior year of college. I was thrilled. I was so excited. At the same time, I was super nervous, though. I was like, am I going to be able to do this? Am I going to be able to pull this off? Thankfully, I said yes and just said I'll figure it out along the way, didn't worry about it, and it was one of the best experiences ever. I learned so much, and that's kind of what catapulted my interest in styling. So then after that styling experience, I went back to college and finished my senior year, and when it came time to apply for jobs, I looked into styling a little bit, but there obviously wasn't a lot of job security in that because a lot of styling jobs are just freelance. You're hired by a person or a magazine or something to style a campaign or a person for a red carpet, but it's a one-off job sort of thing, which is great, but for someone just coming out of college, I wanted a bit more job security. So I went the magazine route, especially after my internship at Marie Claire. I loved it so much, and I really knew I wanted to work in magazines. So when I graduated in May, I literally applied everywhere. I emailed every editor that I could find. I was on Google. I was buying magazines and using the mastheads just to email editors, literally emailing everyone. So eventually I emailed someone at Teen Vogue, and it was someone who had interned at Marie Claire previously. We didn't intern at the same time, and we didn't know each other at all, but we just had that common link on our resumes. And so when I emailed her, she actually emailed me back pretty quickly and said, oh, I interned at Marie Claire as well. I know how great of an internship that is. I'll definitely keep you in mind. We should have something opening within the next month. So I was ecstatic, but at the same time, I knew not to get my hopes up because so many times I had gotten my hopes up before when I went on interviews or did something, and then I was truly crushed when I didn't get the job. So just to preface this, I did go on tons of other interviews at places, Glamour, Vogue, different places, and, didn't end up getting the job. Just went on tons of different interviews, and there was rejection. So it wasn't that Teen Vogue was my first interview ever and I just got the job. There was definitely a lot of trial and error and a lot of rejection and things like that. So just want to always throw that in there because a lot of times we just talk about the good and we don't always talk about the bad, and it's so important to just be real that things don't happen overnight. They do take a lot of hard work. So thankfully, after I emailed with the girl at Teen Vogue, about a month later, she did email me that a position did open, and it was to help out with Back to School Saturday, which is this initiative that Teen Vogue used to do when they would partner with Simon malls all across the country and do little back to school fashion shows and events and offer special discounts and things like that. So they needed to hire an assistant to help out with the planning and the coordination of all of that. And so went in for an interview, brought my little portfolio, was so excited, and the interview went really well, and then I was told I was going to need to come in for a second interview to meet with those girls' boss. So I went home, sent a thank you email, all that stuff, and then I didn't hear anything, and I was devastated. I was so upset. I was like, what went wrong? Why am I not hearing? They said they wanted me to come in for a second interview. Oh, by the way, they said they wanted me to come in for the second interview the next day. So when I didn't hear right away, I was devastated. I thought I messed up something. And so, a couple of days go by. I sent my thank you. I didn't want to be too, on top of them and too stalkery. But eventually it got to a point where I was like, okay, I'm going to send one last follow-up email and just put it out there into the universe. And if it's not meant to be, it won't happen. Sent that one last follow-up, and maybe a couple minutes later got an email back from the girl at Teen Vogue saying, I'm so sorry we didn't get back to you sooner. Things have just been crazy. Can you come in for an interview tomorrow? I was like, I'll be there. Drop everything. Forget whatever plans I had. I will be there. So I go in for my second interview, meet with their boss. It goes pretty well, and she said, okay, so if you got this job, when would you be able to start? I said, I can literally start today, tomorrow, whenever you need me. I was just so eager and wanted this job so bad, and so I leave, start commuting back home, and maybe an hour later they call me and say, hey, can you start tomorrow? So that is how I got my job at Teen Vogue. So then I helped out with Back to School Saturday, did Back to School Saturday, and eventually when that project was coming to an end, I really loved Teen Vogue and I wanted to stay within Teen Vogue, and thankfully they had just hired a new fashion director and she needed an assistant, so I was brought in for an interview with the fashion director, and it went really well. She was super nice, and she ended up hiring me as her assistant. She was such an amazing mentor and cool person to work for, especially with my first job. She had been, I believe, the fashion director at style.com before that, so she had a lot of really cool, great experience, and was just someone truly inspiring to learn from at my first job. So while at Teen Vogue, also want to throw in that I was given the ability to write for teenvogue.com and get some clips out there into the world to begin building my digital presence and my name in the digital world. So just wanted to throw that out there. And so eventually, though I loved Teen Vogue, I was on the print side, and I knew that everything was going digital within the industry, and that if I didn't jump on the digital bandwagon, I would be left behind. So I knew I needed to go digital, and I needed to go to a company where I could be on the digital team. So I eventually ended up getting a job at InStyle on the digital fashion team, writing about fashion market stories, interviewing designers at Fashion Week and things like that, and it was an incredible experience. I learned so much that I was then able to apply into making it in Manhattan, so I will always be thankful for that role in that position. So yeah, I got to do really cool things like interviewing Betsy Johnson at her last ever show at New York Fashion Week. That's probably the highlight of my time there. And then I did a lot of style stories, how to wear different things, how to style different things, which I then think I've been able to apply into my career now. So while at InStyle, I learned tons of things about SEO, building a digital brand, how to write a digital article, how to write a headline, top editing, things like that I was then able to apply to making it in Manhattan. So now I'm at InStyle, right? Where does making it in Manhattan come into all of this? So one day I'm working at InStyle, and I start just thinking back and thinking, wow, I can't believe I'm working at InStyle, and I can't believe I just worked at Teen Vogue. This is crazy. These are all dreams of mine, things I dreamed about my entire life, and now they're happening. So I just started writing things down because I didn't want to forget. So my thought was, I want to start writing journals or writing things down so I don't forget all of these amazing and cool things that I'm doing and these things that are happening to me. And then I started realizing all of the lessons I had learned and all of the things I had wished I had known before I started, and making it in Manhattan came to life. I just thought to myself, wow, I would love to write an all-encompassing beginner's guidebook for people who are trying to break into the industry and make it in Manhattan. People like me who are first starting out and know nothing and know no one in the industry. Also, to preface, I knew no one in the fashion industry going into it. No one in my family is in fashion. Most people in my family are in medicine. My dad's a doctor. My sisters are doctors, so I didn't have any connections or, oh, someone knows someone who can get you an internship. There was not any of that. It was really building my own connections and fostering my own relationships. So I knew that there were tons of other people like me who just really wanted to work in fashion but knew absolutely no one. So with that being said, I wanted to write this beginner's guidebook for breaking into the fashion industry and for landing your dream job and building your dream career and all of those things. So once I started writing Making It in Manhattan and I had about 3 chapters done, I started Googling, how do you write a book? How do you make this a book? How does this become a book? Because at that point I just had some things written down on paper. I didn't know how to make it into a book. So eventually I had a friend who I knew from high school who worked at a publishing house, but on the audio side, so audiobooks and things like that. So definitely not the department I needed, but she said that she'd meet me for lunch and I could pick her brain and ask her tons of questions. So we went to lunch, I asked her tons of questions, and her biggest advice was to get a literary agent. And how do you get a literary agent? I didn't know. So I went to Google and I started Googling literary agents and how to find a literary agent and things like that. And eventually I found this literary agent database online. It was literally 60 pages of literary agents. I'm not even exaggerating or kidding. It was just page after page, lists of literary agents, and a lot of them had their email addresses or had websites linked that I could then go search and find an email address. So I then set out to email my little baby book. I call it baby book because it only had 3 chapters, to as many literary agents as I could. I got some rejections, as always, people saying, oh, this isn't a fit for what I do, or I don't think this is whatever, some rejections, of course. And eventually, though, I got one email back. Well, not one, I got a couple, but the main one I got back was from my future literary agent, who was a blessing and who really was then able to coach me and teach me in the whole book writing process. So once I landed my literary agent, her and I worked together over the next about year to really develop the idea of the book and to really push me to write as much as possible and to just get words onto paper. So eventually, towards the year point, maybe a little under a year, she suggested to me that I start a website also called Making It in Manhattan, where I could start writing about career advice and building my platform and brand and name in the industry as someone who writes and talks about career advice. Great idea, because her idea was that eventually, once my book came out, I would already have a following and a group of people who knew me for career advice and for fashion and things like that. So I eventually started this website. I have my website still, of course. Started my little baby Making It in Manhattan website and just started writing, started interviewing people, started doing stories about career advice, started talking about different things, how to format your resume, things I've learned so far working in the industry and things like that. Also, I was still at InStyle while doing all of this, and I also want to point out that while at InStyle, I started taking daily outfit pictures just on an iPhone, and also I knew nothing about posing, but I would hashtag and call the outfits what I wore to work today. So that was kind of my little, whether I knew it or not, way that I began to brand myself. This was not planned. This was not something like, oh, I'm going to be an influencer and post outfits. I just wanted to be more active on social media and knew that it was important, especially if I was writing a book and all of that stuff, to be more active. So every day I would pull a coworker or someone at InStyle to just run out with me during lunch break and to just snap a few pictures on my iPhone, and so I had something to post for the day. That was the very beginning stages of my social media and Instagram career, whether I knew it or not. That was like laying the groundwork for all of that. So now, just to catch up and wrap up everything, I'm at InStyle, I'm doing outfit pictures, I'm writing the book, I launched my website. After I launched the website, I started sharing my articles that I was writing on my Instagram, and it turns out that career advice is a very Googled topic, so pretty quickly the website started doing pretty well for just like me behind the computer writing, and eventually, not because the website had blown up or anything, but because I knew of the potential of the website, and I knew the website and the book and the brand and everything. I Do you ever have a feeling in like your heart and your soul that you're supposed to be doing something more than you're doing? Well, that's like what I was dealing with. I was so torn. Like, I loved working at InStyle, and it was something I had dreamed about working at a fashion magazine my entire life, but I was just not satisfied. I was so hungry for more, and I knew in my heart that I was supposed to be doing more. I was supposed to be helping people or building a brand or doing something. I didn't know exactly how I was going to get there or what I was going to do eventually when I got there, but I just knew in my heart I was supposed to be doing more. So with that being said, I took a huge leap of faith and eventually left behind my job at InStyle to become my own boss and to build Making It in Manhattan. My first months out on my own freelance, I was still freelance writing for different publications and magazines because I still needed some sort of income. It wasn't until a few months had gone by that I was really able to establish myself more so in the influencer space. So right off the bat, once I went freelance, one of my biggest things that I needed to do was I needed to re-educate people. So a lot of people in the industry knew me as Caroline from InStyle, but I wanted them to now look at me and think of me as Caroline, stylist, influencer, making it in Manhattan, all these different things. So my goal was to do as many coffee meetings as possible. So every day I feel like I had meetings lined up all day, every day. I reached out to publicists and people that I'd worked with previously in the industry and just said to them, hey, I'm not sure if you heard, but I left InStyle. I'm now out on my own. Would love to chat and get breakfast and see how we may be able to continue working together. That was a great way to just like tap into my network, say, hey, I'm here, let me know what you're up to, and then hopefully maybe build more connections and build more contacts and things like that. So eventually, after a few months into just freelancing, hustling, I was doing some copywriting, I was doing odd styling jobs. I was literally doing anything and everything I could to just build my brand and continue freelancing. Now, with that being said, one of my biggest tips would be to save up some money before you just quit your job and go out on your own, because as I'm saying, like in the beginning, it wasn't like floods of money just came my way. It took a few months before I really was able to establish myself. So save up as much as you can from your full-time job so that when you do take the leap of faith and make a bold move, and for me the best decision I've ever made, you still have some sort of income and you're not like, how am I going to pay for my rent? So with that being said, after a few months of doing everything and anything I could, still building the website, still freelance writing, everything I could be doing, I landed an influencer partnership, a small one, around Fashion Week. But the one that I always talk about and that I say was my first big influencer partnership was a digital commercial that I filmed with Wendy's, because it was my first full-fledged, like, in a studio, hair and makeup, team, crew, lights kind of partnership. I had done little, like, one-off, like, oh, we'll pay you for this Instagram post here, we'll pay you for this takeover there, like, little things like that. But this first job, my first big job, the digital commercial with Wendy's, which is actually on my YouTube, so if you scroll all the way down, you will be able to find it, and it's super cute. That was my first big paid influencer job, and I was like, this is how much people are getting paid to do this? Oh my gosh, like, I need to keep doing it, keep building this brand, keep going for it. And eventually, soon after that, I landed another big influencer project with Pandora Jewelry, and that was a really great project. And once I got both of those projects and posted about them a lot and shared, the finished products and the videos and this and that, I then started getting more projects. So I feel like all it takes is, a couple of brands to take a chance on you and to trust you. And once you show that you did a good job and that, you're really nice and you're professional and things like that, like one of the biggest things that stuck out for me with my Wendy's project was, it was my first big project and things like that, but I kept saying thank you to everyone, like on set, the assistants, the people helping out. We were there from like 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. filming this commercial. And at the end of the commercial, I went around to every single person that was there on set, assistants, directors, everyone, and thanked them for their time and for being there. And, I could tell people were surprised. Like, I had obviously been nice all day to everyone, but it was one of those things that people didn't expect me to say thank you. And so just going that extra mile, saying thank you, being humble, being grateful really goes such a long way. So just a little side note. So from there, once I landed those projects, I, continued just building my brand, building, my social media presence. And one of the biggest things that did help me once I went out on my own was transferring from shooting quick little lunchtime photo shoots on my iPhone to really shooting with photographers and taking time to plan out looks and do more like editorial-esque style photo shoots and to really build up my Instagram in a great and positive way. So now to fast forward a little bit more, then eventually my book came out, and that was a process me and my literary agent worked on together a lot. I eventually landed a book deal with a publishing house. My literary agent was the one who helped coordinate that and reached out to different publishing houses for me. So your literary agent is pretty much like an influencer manager. They reach out on your behalf and pitch you. So eventually that happened. I had a huge launch party at the Seville, which I recently shared pictures on my Instagram from that because it was just our 2-year anniversary, which is crazy, and I can't believe so much time has passed. And now to just fast forward to today, I do a lot of different things still. I have my book, Making It in Manhattan. I have my website, Making It in Manhattan. I've built my brand across Instagram and TikTok, and I'm trying to build YouTube, so please subscribe. Yeah, I get to work with a lot of cool brands where I will help them if they have a new cool product coming out or something like that. They'll come to me and we'll work together, and I will style out content for them that I will then share across my social media. They'll maybe share it across their social media and things like that. Some things I did not mention along the way is I did continue styling. So I eventually started styling this really amazing girl who was in Into the Woods and was on Broadway, and then she introduced me to Sadie Sink, who is from Stranger Things. If you like Stranger Things, I got to style her several times in the very beginning of her career. And then I also styled JoJo Siwa for her first magazine cover ever, which was Tiger Beat magazine, and that was my first time styling a magazine cover. So with my job now, I get to do a lot of different things. I get to work with a lot of different people and collaborate and say yes to a lot of different cool projects. It is a lot of hard work, and it's not always glamorous, but it is fun and I enjoy it so much, and it is definitely what I was meant to be doing. When I was at InStyle and I had that voice inside of me saying, you're meant to be doing something else, it was something like this. It was something greater where I can talk to you guys and help you out. So now that I've kind of told my story, for advice for you guys. So my biggest advice is to do internships. Interning was the way that I figured out what I truly wanted to do in this industry, and is the way that I got my foot in the door and that I met people that then led me to my first styling job, which led me to an entire styling career. So intern. Networking is key in this industry. Don't be afraid to reach out to people, especially in the time we are in now. Don't be afraid to DM people, email people you admire, and see if you could pick their brain, whether it's a virtual Zoom coffee date or maybe just ask them a few questions via email or via DM. Obviously, always being super respectful and kind, but just always picking people's brains. I love talking to other people and hearing about what they do, and that's why I wanted to do this video for you, so that you guys could kind of hear in one full thing everything I do and how I got to where I am. So also be ready to work really hard. Just like I said before, it's not always glamorous, though it can look glamorous. Be willing to do the coffee runs, the pickups, the this, the that. Be willing to do the hard work, and you have to love it. You have to love this industry. It's a 24/7 job. I don't turn off my phone at 5 p.m. and I'm like, oh, I'm done, I'm no longer working. I work 24/7, but I love it, and I'm so thankful for this career and everything. So with that being said, intern, network, work hard, be humble. You know, there's so much advice I could give you guys, and when you guys reach out and are like, I'm just trying to get my foot in the door, how do I get started? Do your research, read books, read magazines, get really knowledgeable and up to date on what is happening in this industry and what is going on. And then, you know, network, try to land an internship. And also, when all else fails and you can't find an internship, social media is a great platform to build your brand and to also build your digital online portfolio. So maybe you just really want to work at a magazine, but nobody's hiring right now. Start your own website for the time being and get some clips out there and share them on your Instagram. I'm not saying you have to only be an influencer to share on social media. Anybody can share on social media, and then it's a great platform and a great way for people to find your work and to connect with you. So with that being said, I hope this video is not too long. When I go back to edit it, I know I'm going to be like, oh my gosh, I rambled and I spoke so much. But I hope this was helpful for you guys. And if you have any other questions, please leave them in the comments below. I would love to chat with you guys more and help you land your dream job and break into the industry and make it in Manhattan. So thank you so much. If you've watched to this point, thank you for tuning in and being part of this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Make sure to subscribe, and again, leave me a comment if you have a question or if you have an idea for a future video, and I will see you soon.